Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We are your hosts, David O.
And Eric V.
Today we are joined by our lovely guest, Tyonie. How are you doing today? Tyonie?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Tyonie?
Did you mess it up?
Tyonie.
You messed it up.
Tyonie.
Damn it,
Wow,
I messed
look
it up.
we just talked about this. Amazing.
As soon as I said it,
Amazing.
I thought of the actress Tia Leone, and my brain got all mixed up.
It's okay.
It's okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
How are you doing?
It's okay. I'm good. I'm good.
Where are you from, Tyonie?
I am from San Diego, California.
All right.
Oh, nice.
How's the weather?
Probably perfect.
Probably perfect.
Today it's cold. We're expecting rain tomorrow.
What is cold?
What is cold?
Oh, okay. Yeah, cold. It was 71.
Oh. Yeah, it's in like the 40s here.
Yeah, it's cold.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a chance of snow tonight here.
Is there?
Flurries.
Oh. No, they don't see snow in San Diego.
Yeah.
So, when were you first?
No, we don't.
No. When were you first introduced to recovery?
I was first introduced to it back in June of 2018. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's when I started AA. I was first introduced when I got sick, and I was in the hospital, and they had a social worker come in and talk to me about sober house living and being placed in like a rehab facility instead of going home. So that was 2014.
All right. And how long have you been sober?
I've been sober, let's see, a little over a year. My sobriety date is June 9th, 2018.
Nice. Congratulations. And
Thank you.
Yeah, with all that out of the way, we're going to turn it over to you to share your story with us. So take it away.
Okay. I guess it's just, I always drank, when in my early 20s, just partying, and it kind of escalated when I got fired from a job back in, I think it was 2010. So I was unemployed for almost a year and a half, and I was bored, and I was married, and my husband was very sweet, and he told me that I didn't have to get a job right away. So I was like, sweet, okay. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. So I totally took advantage of that, but waking up, I was like, don't have anything to do. I kind of want to get a good buzz going, and I don't have any responsibility. We don't have any children, so went ahead and just started drinking, which to me seemed innocent enough. And until my husband started coming home, and he started seeing me just like passed out, or my moods were starting to change more. He would tell me when he would come home, he didn't know what person he was going to get, a sad person, a happy person, a depressed person. I always tried to be that happy person, but then if I blacked out, I wouldn't remember what I did. And so I finally got a job in 2012, and which I'm still at right now. And in 2014, I got really sick. I just started feeling like a bunch of really bad pain in my lower back and in my middle of my chest area. And I don't go to the doctor or the hospital for anything. And I told my husband, I said, something's wrong. I think we need to go to the hospital. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. He didn't know that I had taken, my normal routine, even when I got home from work, was taking at least maybe 10 shots, even before I walked my dog, just because I needed that extra even if I was tired from work. And so he didn't know what my blood alcohol content was until we went to the hospital. And when they said, okay, well, we're going to have to take your blood, I was like, crap, he's going to see what the BAC is. And so they did that, and they were like, how much did you drink today? Like, where were you? And I was like, I was at home. And they're like, wow. They're like, okay, well, we're going to have to admit you because you have pancreatitis, along with your liver is shutting down.
Whoa.
And so I was like, oh, my God. Yeah. So I was like, oh, my goodness. So I got admitted, and right away I was there for, I was on NPO, which means I can't eat or drink anything. I was strictly IV for 6 days. Ugh. And on the 7th day, they tried to give me Jell-O, and I couldn't even digest that. Like, it was like razors going down. Like, it was crazy. Yeah, and it was Jello, so I've never experienced that. I was like, "Whoa, time out! I'm like, I can't finish this." They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "It feels like razors going down." And they're like, "Okay, well, let's take it easy." And so I had to go on a strict diet on before I came home, so they could tell me, I couldn't have like sour cream, any of the heavy stuff, so it could process correctly. And I had to go and see a gastroenterologist for 6 months. And they were telling me, maybe you should think about AA. Had social workers coming to talk to me. And I was like, no, I can stop drinking on my own. I'm like, I don't need to do any of that. I'm totally fine. And it worked for a while. It worked for those 6 months when I had to go and get checked. And as soon as those 6 months passed, the doctor was like, okay, well, you know what? Your pancreas healed fine. So did your liver. I was like, wow, that's awesome. I'm like, well, can I have like a couple of drinks here and there? He didn't know like I had a drinking problem. He's like, oh, of course. Yeah, you can go and have a couple of drinks. So for me, that was a green light to go ahead and do what I was doing before. And so, but then I started hiding it and I started sneaking it. So my husband went and see, and I after those 6 months, I said, oh, maybe I can have like maybe a margarita or cocktail here. He's like, I don't know. He's like, this kind of scares me. What if you go back into that old pattern? And I was like, nope. I'm like, I'm good. And he was right, because I get ready in the bathroom, curl my hair, get ready. And I would have little bottles of like Patron, or little bottles of vodka or tequila hidden in the way back where our cupboard is, where my hair products were, so he couldn't see it. So when I was taking a shower, I was like literally like getting a good buzz before we went to dinner, before we went to family functions. And
You're
I got
taking
away
shower
with it
drinks?
for about, yes.
I've done that.
Shower drinks
shower
are
shots.
apparently like a big thing.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
David looks very proud of
Yes.
himself, by the way. You can't see him, but
No.
he looks very proud that he knows about
like
this
reminiscing
and was part of this.
I was like, you're a shower drinker too? I'm like, I did that. Yay. Hooray,
You are not
dereliction. No. Okay, go on.
So yeah, I was doing that, and I was pretty functionable because my tolerance was super high, even after not drinking those 6 months. And I got away with it for 4 years, and like after those 4 years, my pattern, it seemed like I was making up for lost time too, because I drank like twice as much. And I started feeling those pains again. Like it was a specific day. It was like June 8th. And I was like, oh no, I'm like, it's that sharp pain again. And I automatically knew like I had to go to the hospital because I couldn't take care of it on my own. And my husband was like, oh no, he's like, what it is? He already knew, but he was trying to be a nice guy. And I'm like, I think it's my pancreas. And he's like, you've just been overdoing it again, haven't you? And I'm like, yeah. So we went, and sure enough, it had pancreatitis again, along with my liver. It was super swollen, and I was hospitalized again. Couldn't eat or drink anything. And there was a male social worker, and he was pretty stern. He was like, if you don't stop drinking, he's like, your body's going to give up on you, and you're going to die early. And he's all, this isn't a joke. He's like, I seen your chart. I seen you've been here before. He's like, why are you still drinking? And I really didn't have an answer, like a good answer. I said, well, I like to drink after work because, like, I'm stressed. He's like, so? He's like, you don't think other people are stressed? Like, he was really, like, stern. I was like, wow. Because my first time in the hospital, everybody was super nice. So I was given, like a soft cushion. So I wasn't really scared to go back. And so I think that's what it was, because I was like, oh, I'll just go to the hospital and I'll get fixed again. Like, that was kind of in the back of my mind. And so this guy was like, no, I don't know if he's probably had maybe a personal experience, maybe kids of his own or family members, but he was like, I think you need to go to a sober living. He's like, I don't think you can go back home. He's like, if you could be sober, he's like, you wouldn't be here again. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And I called my husband. I'm like, I think they're going to like put me away to a sober living place. And he was like, don't worry, I'll come down there. So my husband comes down to the hospital, and You know, he was like, no, we'll make sure like we keep an eye on her. I didn't go to the sober living, but my doctor, when I had to get a checkup the following week, she was like, I really think you should try AA. And that was super scary to me because of the whole God thing. And I didn't want to be, and I heard it was a cult. I was like, oh no, like, and you're like, oh no, like, what am I, like, I didn't want to be and with other people, and I didn't want to say I'm Tyonie and I'm an alcoholic. That was like scared me to death. And so I was like, but I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not homeless. You know, I have a house or I have a home, and you know, I'm okay. I'm still married. I have a job, but you know, we all come in different forms. That had nothing to do with anything. It was what I was doing to myself. And so I said I wasn't going to do it, and I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what, this is like kind of eye-opening. I can't do this on my own. And even when I did, I was like bare-knuckling it through the whole process. The first time I had pancreatitis, and I was just miserable. I was miserable. I was mad. I was pissed off because even if we went to gatherings, people were drinking around me, and I thought it was unfair that I felt like a little kid in timeout. Like, you know, no, you can't drink. So I was like, oh man, like this sucks. Like, how am I going to live? Like everything that I did with my friends was all about, you know, hanging out, house parties. Our partying got a little bit, you know, quieted down when everybody else started having kids, but we still drank. And so I was like, maybe I should surround myself with other people that share the same, you know, disease. And I came home and I told my husband, I'm like, I think I'm going to try AA. And he's like, okay. He's like, are you sure? He's like, do you want me to go with you? And I knew I was already codependent enough on him for a lot of other things. I kind of wanted to do it on my own. And so I said, you know, I think I'm going to do this on my own. Let me try it out. I'm like, I really don't want to go, but I don't have anywhere else to go. Like, I'll keep drinking. And he was like, okay. And luckily enough, there was a place, like literally like 5 minutes where I live. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I started going there, and I just started seeing how people were interacting with each other. Everybody knew everybody. So I was like the newcomer, and I kept hearing, you know, people saying, do you have a sponsor? Are you working the steps? But I didn't, all of that was like a foreign language to me. I didn't know what they were talking about. So I was like, I don't know. How do I get a sponsor? Do I Google it? I should know like where to go. And they're like, no, they're all, you choose a sponsor here in the meeting, and if they want to sponsor you, they will. And I was like, okay. It took me a good 5.5 months. Like, I was scared of being rejected if I asked someone to be my sponsor. And so I still had, like, I was sober, but I still had my alcoholic ways of thinking. Like, I still had, like, you know, oh, I don't want anybody to reject me. Like, what if I ask them to be my sponsor and they don't want to? What if I'm not cool enough? What if I'm like, what if I'm hopeless? You know, all these things. And so a girl had mentioned, she was like, you know what, I just lost a sponsee, so if there's anybody out there that needs a sponsor, please come see me, which she kind of got shaded by that because you're not supposed to do that. But to me, that was like a huge sign. So I was like, oh my God, I need to talk to this girl, like after the meeting, and I need to approach her. And I did, and we met that following week, and she was my sponsor. She worked me through the steps, through all of the 12 steps and everything. And pretty much since then, I kept going back. I still go back every weekend because they're pretty much 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. And that's like my home group. And I started adding in other groups too, just to meet like more new people and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been pretty wild. I've only been sober for like a year and a half, a little over a year and a half, but to me it feels like 10 years. It really does, because all the work I've been putting in, and it just seems like I'm getting more comfortable with myself, like being sober. So I'm finding out new things that I didn't know I liked to do before, other than champagne brunches on Sundays.
Yeah.
So
Sunday fun day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sunday fun day, exactly.
All right.
So that's like basically my story. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
We definitely have some questions for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you start
Okay.
again, Eric.
Oh. Oh, look at this. Wow.
Twice in a row.
Oh man. So, I didn't hear you talk that much about kind of, earlier in your life, and it kind of almost sounded like your alcoholism really took off around the time.
She was a late bloomer.
Yeah, that's what. Well, yeah, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
Prefacing.
Yeah,
You got to build it, David. You can't just jump in.
You do. I'm more to the
Yeah,
point.
you put your toe in the water. You check out the temperature.
Dive in head first,
think
buddy.
about it, and that's how you break your neck, David. That's how you break your neck.
Pitter patter.
So we digress. So I guess this is something that being in the rooms for as long as we have been is you see people who sometimes are late bloomers, and one thing I've always been curious about is I've been in and out of fellowships since I was 20, and I've been doing treatment stuff since I was 18. So how would you would you consider yourself a late bloomer kind of with your alcoholism? And then also, if so, does that kind of, I don't know, affect the way that you go about your recovery because of that?
I wouldn't say I was a late bloomer. I grew up in an alcoholic home.
Okay.
My dad, so there was always alcohol around, and I started drinking when I was 18. Mm-hmm. So I would still have those moments. I just mentioned how that's how it escalated to my pancreas and my liver. But I started drinking when I was 18, but it was always hard liquor too. I really stayed away from the beer because I wanted to get there. I didn't want. I remember even friends around me saying, "You're drinking like you're trying to get drunk," and I'm like, "I am." That's what I wanted to do.
Were you a blackout artist?
Yeah, I was definitely was. The checking the cell phone if I still had my cell phone to see who I called, who I texted, trying to find out what I said.
Okay. Then let me rephrase this question then.
Sure.
So I guess, especially the way you just described it and how you drank to get drunk, which, I can relate to, and how kind of the idea of the blackout. But it sounded like it kind of, when you started drinking later on with taking the shots, now that was more of a maintenance thing, right? You were beyond the blackout at that point. That was I need to take these shots just to make sure, for lack of a better, to stop the shakes, right? To be okay. When do you think that, you kind of described it, but describe that change from that way of thinking of where it's all right, I'm a weekend warrior. I'm going to go out, I'm going to drink, I'm going to black out, I'm going to have fun. Might not remember it, but it was a good time, to the point where it's you know what? I got home from work and I'm starting to shake and I need to drink or else I'm going to go crazy. What was that progression of change?
I would say maybe the transitioning of it would be it started, I would say, if I had a bad day. And I would say, I'm gonna have a couple of shots so I can relieve the stress, or relieve this anger, or relieve whatever was going on in my life. Maybe something bad happened that wasn't work related. Maybe it was family, and I turned to it more as a friend than anything. Turned to it more when I didn't want to talk to anybody or burden anybody with my problems, and so I would want to pass out from whatever I was feeling. And so I would always turn to alcohol for that reason. Does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
All right. I have a question.
Okay.
So describe what happens internally, or just what basically the difference is in a self-admission of our problems versus people telling us that we have a problem?
That's a good question. I really think self-admission is when you're at your rock bottom and you're just scared and you don't have anywhere else to go. Mm-hmm. I think when you're told to do something, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but for myself, this alcoholic, I don't like to be controlled. I don't like to be told what to do, and I want to do it my way. And I always had that in the back of my mind, like, who are you to tell me that I can't drink anymore? It's my body. I can do whatever I want. And so it wasn't until that I got sick again that I was like, wow, this isn't a joke. This is reoccurring, so I have to do something about it. So that's how I came up with that. I mean, yeah.
All right. Perfect.
So I kind of wanted, do you remember the show Scared Straight?
Yes.
Yes,
Dude, I thought
do.
the same thing.
Okay. So with your illness the second time and that doctor kind of being like, you know, like kind of all aggressive and like, you know,
Dude, I
like
thought the same thing.
work the steps or die, motherfucker, sort of like ideology, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
you know,
yes.
so do you believe that, not only your illness, but I mean, mainly your illness, right? But do you believe that your illness kind of scared you straight almost?
Yes, 100%.
And
I do.
And like, what would have happened if you kept drinking?
Probably, I mean, I don't know. Maybe my body would have just failed on me and I wouldn't have known it. And you hear people having accidental alcoholic poisoning all the time. I mean, that could have easily been me. And I always say, thank goodness I have a sobriety date, because that could have been my tombstone date, because I was drinking like crazy. So, yeah, I don't know what would have happened.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Since excuse me, since coming into recovery and like doing step work and everything, have you identified any sort of red flag behaviors from your like upbringing, or even while you were in active like addiction? Have you what like addictive tendencies do you see and recognize now that you had maybe even before you picked up a drink?
Like, as far as my behavior pattern?
Yeah.
So like shopping,
I would-
or you know,
Yeah.
like codependency, like you mentioned, like anything like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, shopping was one of them. Or, you mean like what I would do once I started drinking, like what I would get into?
Well,
that I guess Go ahead.
like before I like picked up drugs, or like a lot of people, they had like attention seeking behavior, so they were always seeking ways to like get outside of themselves. So
And even after we put the drugs down,
and even
or
after we
alcohol,
put like after I got clean, like I picked up energy drinks like it was nobody's business. So have you recognized any ways that you've tried to like maybe substitute for something you've lost?
Energy drinks was one of them, and I got pancreatitis again after I was sober.
Oh.
And I couldn't believe it. Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't drank one drop. Like, what is going on? I remember when I got sober in June, I got sick at the end of November. And I was freaking out, and I went to the hospital again, and they said it was the energy drinks. They said that I can't digest them anymore. They're like, it's really bad for you. If you keep drinking them, you're gonna end up back here. And so then I was like, okay, well, what else am I gonna reach out for? So then I started going for coffee, you know, like before my AA meetings, because I go to the early ones, but it was like 7 a.m. But I was the reason why I went to the 7 a.m. meetings is because I was a morning drinker, early morning drinker. So even if I got up to use the restroom, I would have to have a couple of shots before I went back to bed. And so that's what helps me take my mind, when I first got sober, take my mind off of it, because I'd get up at 4:30 automatically.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I going to do with my day? But since my AA meetings, my home group starts at 7 a.m., that gives me time to get up nicely, take a shower, get my hair done, do all that stuff. But yeah, coffee's one of them. I started exercising, but that's still not something that I go to. I don't like doing it, but I do it anyways. But I would say definitely coffee. Shopping, yes. Shopping, definitely. I'd say, oh, well, maybe this new top will make me feel better.
Yeah.
Or maybe these new pair of shoes, I need to still fill that void. So what can I grab? Or what can I seek? Because, I don't have anything anymore to fill it. So what am I missing? So yes, definitely.
All right. Perfect.
So you mentioned kind of when you were talking about the steps, or kind of coming to, or, starting AA, that you had an issue with God. So I have a very complex ideology when it comes to the whole like higher power sort of thing. So
yours is evolved though too.
Mine's evolved. It's always changing. I don't like staying in one place. But
good for you.
What?
Good for
That's
you.
changing?
Hey, that's just constant open-mindedness.
Well, yeah. I mean, I
still
am firmly on that one like quote from Dr. Manhattan from the Watchmen.
Yes, I know you are.
That is my firm belief. Like whether that concept changes in other ways, my firm belief is on that quote from Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen. But have you gotten past the God stuff, and how has your spirituality, I guess, evolved since starting your journey?
Ooh, good question. I do like this question. It's definitely evolved a lot. I grew up in a Catholic home, and basically, that's what I was told. You believe in God, and, this is the story. Don't do bad things or you're going to go to hell. That's what I was told growing up. So I was like, okay. But I didn't understand, I would pray, but I didn't understand who I was praying to. I would go to church and I wouldn't understand these stories. Like that was a long time ago, from a time I don't know of and words that I don't even know of. And so I couldn't really grasp the whole religion thing, a structured place where people go to, where sometimes I would see these people doing the things that we were taught not to do in those churches. So I would think, wow, how come you're so good? And, they didn't know I saw what they did, but, we were cool, like in the Sunday church, but then say come Tuesday, I see them doing something else. I'm like, whoa, like that's not the person I know on Sunday. So then I was like, well, so then once I started reading the big book, and that's what really connected with me when it said, God as you understood him, your higher power. It doesn't have to be, this, you have to be this religion. And so I really gravitated to that. And now I'm more like into like the universe, and more into, I definitely know there's a higher power greater than myself, 100%. Now, is he, in a cloth robe? Is he a person? No, not to me. He's more of a consciousness. He's more, he or she, or a feeling, an energy that if I know I'm not supposed to be doing something, I feel I'm not supposed to be doing something. I don't feel I have a pair of eyes saying, no, don't do that. It's a feeling like I know I should not be doing this.
Yes.
And so that's what helps guide me now. And that's what I gravitate to mostly.
Love that. And, yeah, I can relate a lot to that. Like, I think, me personally, I think most people just sort of have that intrinsic morality of knowing, because we know when we're not doing something right. Like when you're stealing something,
for sure.
Like even if you're the most hardened criminal, like there's at least one alarm bell that's like, I shouldn't do this.
So you're saying that
right,
there's innate ethics and morals that are governed by a universal
consciousness. Yes.
Oh,
I think there's a good and a bad feeling that we will naturally get, and that's really like
so much of that could be based off perception.
oh yeah, it's totally
like
my
your
perception.
perception of what's good and my perception of what's good could be different. So
yes, morality is 100% subjective, and I understand that.
Oh yeah, I'm just the way you were phrasing it, you were kind of saying there's a good and a bad, and
well, there is, but it is like there's a lot of gray areas. But I think ultimately we all have those feelings, like even from like when we're a kid, before we even know what morality is, like. We break a lamp,
right.
We know we messed up. Like, we know we did something wrong. You're stealing, you get caught with your hand in the cookie jar, you know you're in trouble.
I'm trying to think, what's that movie with Macaulay Culkin? The Bads?
The Good Son.
The Good Son, yeah.
The Good Son with Elijah Wood.
Oh,
For some reason,
that's a good one.
That's what I thought of when you were talking about, like, the little kid. I just saw Macaulay Culkin, like, and I was like, oh, man. In that movie, not the other movie.
That kid is so creepy in that movie.
Yeah.
Epic. Okay. I'm surprised Eric hasn't asked this question because I think this is more up his avenue. But I'm going to take it. So, you've had some health problems in recovery, obviously. So, what changes and struggles have you had in recovery that are related to your physical health and wellness, and what have you implemented to really recover your health? So not so much the addiction side, but recovering like your pancreatic health and your liver health and just the overall well-being of your life. What have you had to implement in that form of recovery for your life?
Definitely more exercise. I didn't have the energy before to exercise when I was drinking. Mm-hmm. And so they definitely told me that I had to keep my body moving at least 30 minutes a day, which I do before I go to work. But I had to add in an extra workout because they said, it was funny, when I got my yearly checkup, my doctor told me, you should be working out 30 minutes after you come home from work. I'm like, I have been. And she's like, but you're barely losing any weight. I'm like, yeah, I don't understand. She's like, it's 80% what you eat, 20% what you work out. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, yeah, I get that part. And so I had to add in an extra workout because that's what helps my, even my pancreas too. I got a recommendation to drink a half cup of lime juice, and that's supposed to help your liver. And you know what? It worked. That's what repaired my liver. And I don't know if it's
lime juice.
Lime juice, yes. And I actually bought a little lime squeezer and everything, and I drank that for those 6 months when I was getting my liver back into shape, and I had to go see my gastroenterologist. And I don't know if it was because my mindset was like, this is going to help my liver, or if it really helped it. You know what I mean? So I did that too as well. Some of the other struggles in my recovery, I would say, is choosing who I hang out with now. Not so much the peer pressure, but just not wanting to. I could tell when people feel bad, or I don't want to be like the pity story, or sometimes I would think, I can keep these old friends, mm-hmm. but I could feel myself saying I'm kind of outgrowing that, which is a little sad, but I don't know how to explain that. But does that answer you guys' question? I guess you guys are mostly talking more about my health, though, right? I mean,
yeah.
That's kind of like health, like mental health, like.
Yeah, for this question, yeah, for sure.
So, I guess, and you kind of touched on it here, but we can kind of dive deeper. But since entering mm-hmm. recovery, besides AA, what else, and you touched on it with exercise, but what else have you done for yourself that you would consider part of your recovery? Besides the exercise, maybe like yoga or eating well or reading certain books. Like what have you done outside mm-hmm. of AA for your recovery? I
started volunteering for H&I programs. at our rehab facility. And basically, it's just bringing meetings into institutions that people can get out of, such as jails and rehabs. And I volunteer my time there.
Nice.
I started last summer, and I love it. Like they say, whatever, you're giving back. I gotta give back so I can stay sober, and that really helps me. It reminds me. I do that actually twice a week, and it's on Thursdays and Sundays, and it's such a reminder when I see people, share their story, or and they are just where I was. Like, where do I go from here? And yeah, so that's been a big part of my recovery. I didn't think I would like it. My sponsor recommended it to me. She totally gets me too, because she knows I don't like to be told what to do. She's like, well, I think this would be a good thing if you would try this out. And so I'm like, okay. And so that's when I started trying it. And I did it yesterday. I did it last night. So that's another thing that I'm doing.
H&I is great. I did H&I for a few years. It was a while ago now.
You got me my first H&I commitment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you did.
Did I do that?
You did.
Was it Shepherd Pratt?
It was.
Oh, look at that. God, that was what, like 7 or 8 years ago?
Yeah, it was
a while.
Yeah. 7 years. Yeah, it had to be 7 years ago. Goodness gracious.
Time,
dude. Time. All right. All right. You can only pick one. What is your
child?
No. She doesn't have, no. What is your favorite step?
What is my favorite
step?
Oh, my favorite step. Oh, wow. Okay, and I can only pick one?
Only pick one.
Mm-hmm. So the best way to think about it.
No, don't coerce.
The best way to think about this is imagine you're on a bus.
No,
and
this
it's about to go over the side of a mountain.
You're horrible.
And you're at the back of the bus and you open that emergency hatch.
I hate you.
And you can only save one child. Pick that child.
That is.
Oh no! Yeah, they're all so good.
That is so horrific.
I guess it would be step one.
All right.
Admitting that we were powerless over alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Because that's a domino effect right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that question.
I like that question too. I love that question. It's a great question.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I like the way that I word it, but
Dude, the way you word it is so dark.
David, but I say it in such an uplifting way.
No, you don't.
And that's,
No, you think you do. You don't. No, we're going to couples counseling. It's happening.
No, I think we're okay.
I don't think we are. See, that's the divide we have here. I want to ask a follow up to that.
Oh, go ahead.
We kind of talked about like the difference of like self admission and like our problem and everything, but describe the feeling when your surrender really sank in, and like in that first step, and you kind of surrendered and really dove into a life of recovery.
I would say it would have to be when I got home from work, and that was my routine, was coming home and drinking those shots. I would always have to take those 3 shots. And I came home and I just sat down on the couch and I was like, what am I going to do? Like, what do I do now? Like, that was, I was super sad because I felt like I lost my best friend in a sense. I felt like, who's going to comfort me? Who's going to hang out with me? And so I think that's where I kind of surrendered, and I was like, I don't want to be a dry drunk. So I was like, that's when I started basically trying to put my mindset into a more positive mindset, which was super hard because the last thing you want to do when you give up something that you love is try to be happy about it. And so that's when I was like, you know what, that's why I need to keep going back to these AA meetings, and I need to start trying to figure out why I want to drink and why this is so comforting to me. Like, get down to the root of why I need this this liquid in my body to think I'll be okay. And then that's when I started, getting more into like working the steps and all that good stuff.
All right. Perfect.
So since you mentioned step one, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about reservation.
Coronavirus.
No.
Oh, no.
No, not that.
I thought that's where we were going.
I hope
continue.
by the time this episode comes out, that's still relevant reference. I mean, we did talk about. Did we talk about snow?
Yeah,
earlier?
we talked about snow.
Okay.
This will be like in June. So
Yeah, it'll be a while. But
I doubt people are going to forget about coronavirus by June.
I'm sure, but it might not be as relevant. You know what I mean?
I know, right?
Like it might not be like.
Dude, you can still make bird flu comments. You could still make a swine flu joke, and people are going to laugh.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
swine flu is a thing.
I can see, David, you're the type of person who would like come in with like a polio jab and like be like, "Oh, where are you guys?" Like,
polio is funny. It has been long enough that we can laugh about polio. Okay?
All right. So we, let's get back on track here. So since step one is your favorite step, how have you managed your triggers and reservations since coming to recovery?
Ooh. That's a good one. I used to avoid my triggers because I didn't want to be face to face with them until I just started realizing I'm not going to get over those triggers until I start facing them. And there's certain relations with, certain family members that they're still way into their addiction where I can't contact them or I can't talk to them. And so in a sense that they're still in my life.
Yeah.
But I want to avoid them as much as possible, but I know that I can't do that forever. But I guess, facing more of my triggers, which, I know I'm doing it right if it feels like the tension is lessening when I do come in contact with those certain triggers. And I could feel a little bit more at peace. Not like 100% at peace, but it's not as intense. And then I feel like, okay, this is working. Rather than me get super tense and super angry or super pissed off at certain people or certain things. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That's, I like that concept. Because I know a lot of people say avoid triggers, and for a certain period of time, by all means avoid them, right? Mm-hmm. But I know right now I'm working the Smart Recovery Handbook, and it even says like you have to face at some point, like put yourself in the situation to face it.
Yeah, it's exposure therapy.
Yeah, and it's not at first. Don't. Don't do that.
Yeah, 2 days clean. Don't be like, hey, I'm going to the bar to just test out this thing out.
Yeah.
See how strong-willed I am in 48 hours.
I'm gonna get a soda at the liquor store. You know?
Oh yeah. Don't do that. Yeah. That's dumb.
But like, there is something like, you and I have talked about like Ravens games, right? Like, Ravens games made me really uncomfortable for a very long time because I relate Ravens games to getting wasted.
Yeah.
And like, it definitely, it kind of took me a while to switch my brain to think like, okay, this doesn't mean getting wasted. It means watching a Ravens game. Because getting wasted was part of the Ravens game.
Oh yeah.
Concerts still throw me too. Like it's still hard for me to separate a concert. I can do it, but I still relate. Like I'm at a concert.
Drugs.
And like, my bachelor party was at ACL, Austin City Limits.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, that's a festival.
Yeah.
But I went sober and I was fine. Mm-hmm. So, it's not that I can't do it. It's just sometimes you have to retrain your brain, right? Yeah.
And interestingly enough, as it like pertains to football games, the Ravens games, it was difficult for a while, but then it turned around. It became a 180, and now it became a point of really like a shot of hope because I see all these like wasted people around me who are just so obliterated. They have no idea what's going on. Like they're just so out of touch with reality that they don't even know what's happening on the field. Like they're punching each other and falling downstairs and like, and it made me think about my behavior. Like there were these pretty epic games back in the past where I was just so drunk that I'm like, shit, I know I was here, but I don't remember that. And now I can remember those things. I can be present for those really cool epic games or epic moments. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that 5 years ago when this happened. And I was like, yeah, like why? Because I was clean. Why? Because I was sober and I was present in the moment and had the wherewithal to remember it. So it's a cool shot of hope because it's the same thing with concerts as well. I can now remember the concerts I go see and really get such a level of enjoyment, and like especially with concerts, the adrenaline rush you get from live music. Like without drugs and alcohol, it's so much more amazing. Right. So it's even elevated the experience of music since getting clean.
That's super cool. Yeah. For me too. Definitely.
All right, David.
I saw Gwen Stefani. In Vegas last year. That was super rad.
Hell yeah.
And I was sober, so of course. Yeah, and I was a little nervous, but my husband and my sister went with me, and I was like, I'm doing that. So I get what you mean when you get super stoked and super proud of yourself because you're like, I'm doing this. I mean, we only stayed the night just to see her, but it was so worth it.
That would be a cool show.
Hell yeah, I would go see Gwen Stefani.
What does that show eat? Like, does she play like This Shit Is Bananas, or does she go back to like No Doubt stuff?
Yeah, does she play like No Doubt like music as well?
She did, yes. She played Sunday Morning, I'm Just a Girl,
Spiderweb. Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's pretty cool. That'd be a cool show.
No Doubt was great.
No Doubt.
Yeah.
And
I know.
her singles are very catchy. Her Gwen Stefani stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Super catchy.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love Gwen Stefani. Quick thing. Like, Alanis Morissette is coming, and her tickets were so expensive that I couldn't get it, and I have 100% FOMO.
Okay.
I'm missing Alanis.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, love Alanis Morissette. I couldn't afford tickets. Way too expensive.
Wow.
I'm sad.
I wouldn't think she'd be that expensive. Oh, that's super sad.
Oh, yeah. Are you like all the 40-something moms nowadays who want to relive their 20s? Oh yeah, they're going to see Alanis Morissette.
That's David and David.
Hey.
And David.
Hey.
Don't forget.
My sister is in that range, and that's why I love Alanis Morissette, because I have an older sister who...
Oh, Jagged Little Pill was a great album.
Oh, it's an amazing album.
So,
it's a seminal album of the 90s. Fantastic.
But,
her drummer is actually now the drummer for the Foo Fighters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you learned something today. I think we all did.
Yeah.
Okay. We've digressed. And now, is it time, Eric?
It's time.
Time for the Twitter. To the Twitter.
I just don't.
You don't like it. I don't care if you don't like it.
I do not like what you just added. Before it was fine. I wasn't a huge fan.
The trumpets.
Yeah,
it happened.
Not loving it.
It happened.
You do a few things I don't love on this podcast, but
that's fine.
We'll see.
Really?
What?
Like what? We're telling you, we're going to therapy.
Any Letterkenny references?
That's gonna keep happening. I know you don't like that.
Mainly Letterkenny. So even though I love Letterkenny, I just don't like the references. So this is from Gigi Langer, who we've had on the podcast.
Oh, Gigi.
And this is, so the way we do this is, it's a round robin, so everyone gets a chance to answer. Mm-hmm. And this is a topic. So steps 6 and 7. And that's the topic. So, how you worked it, how you feel about it, and go ahead.
Okay, so that was her question. My phone was cutting out. I couldn't hear that last part.
It's actually more of a topic. So it's on step 6 and 7. So I guess like, how you worked it.
6 and 7.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Ready to remove all my shortcomings. I mean, I still have some of those, or character defects, I should say, defects of character. I kind of like to hold on to them. I feel sometimes because I feel like they're a part of me, but I know they're not a good part of me. So I feel like, well, this is who I am. So what else am I going to lose? So that's I'm still working on that. And what's the one?
We humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings.
To remove our shortcomings.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked him to remove my shortcomings from my higher power when I did but I mean, I still find myself still gossiping, which is, I know that's not good. But
we're humans.
Is it okay if I didn't start the gossip and I'm just
if you're just listening to the gossip, like you're not the person?
Oh yeah, that's totally fine. That's totally fine.
I try to reason with it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I want to hear the gossip. I want to hear what's going on. So, hey, do you want to hear something? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you got? What's going on? Yeah. So, I mean, in that aspect, I mean, I'm trying to get better at it. I try not to entertain that behavior as much. But, I mean, me and my sister are like besties. So, I mean, if she's got something that she knows I want to hear, I'm probably going to take her up on it.
Yeah. That's like watching the news. You didn't create the bad news. You're just watching it. It's not your fault.
Right?
That's not your fault.
Yeah, so... But yeah, I think that's basically the one on my top list is gossip. I try to not gossip as much as I used to because I mean, when I was drinking, I wouldn't care who I told whose story to or who I wouldn't even remember until I would get a text like, "Thanks a lot." You told them something, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like I did, and that comes up. But yeah, that's basically. I'm trying to work through 6 and 7.
All right. I've never liked how they use two different wordings. Like they say character defects and then shortcomings. Because like I'm like, why? Why would you like the steps are ultimately connected, those two. I mean all of them, but like those two are a couple of the pairs. It's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are all paired up together, and so I never understood that, but until I worked them, and just like I talked about with sort of like the intrinsic morality, we went through it, or my sponsor and I went through it, and I really came to a sense of internally I have these spiritual principles and I have these character defects, and and I really visualize it very much in my mind. I have these two shelves and both of them are present, and I'm just standing in front of them, and at any given situation, any given time, any given interaction with a person, I can take one or the other off the shelf, whichever one I want. And I think all of us have that. And that's what I was saying about like that intrinsic morality is those two shelves are there. When you're talking to somebody on the wall, like you look over to the right and you're like, oh, tell the truth. And then on the other shelf, it's like, oh no, lie your fucking ass off. And you have the option to do either one at any time. And those are those character defects. It's those that juxtaposition of spiritual principles and character defects, because you have honesty and compassion and open-mindedness and understanding, all these good virtues of who we can be, and then we have these old ways of behavior, which is dishonesty, closed-mindedness, selfishness, greed, and we have the ability to choose one or the other. But ultimately, like after 4 and 5, and you make that inventory of like who I was and what I want to be ultimately, my sponsor was the first person in my life to really look into my eyes and ask me as a person. He was like, what of those behaviors is no longer acceptable to you? And I was like, wow.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, those are the things that your God has given you the ability to choose now which way you want to go, and it's up to you to really remove those shortcomings from your life. And the shortcomings with the character defects are just intrinsic, and the shortcomings are removing the times that you choose to pick them up. So that's how we differentiated from the two.
Okay.
So yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it was really in depth, and he helped me out a lot. So if you're listening, thank you, Herb. And yeah, that's all I got. What do you got, Eric?
So I've worked 6 and 7 twice, each.
That's so. I've worked it twice.
Well, so David,
I've worked it as much as both of you.
I suppose that considering we won't get into that part.
Let's just can I
hold on.
Yeah, all right. I'm just trying to look at that.
Kitty,
that tail. What? Oh, get out!
Get out of there!
Sorry.
My cat was in one of my
cat is running amok.
Yeah, she's in one of my gear shelves. It's like, get out of the gear shelf. So the first time I ever worked Step 6, I was actually in a relationship with someone else in recovery who was also working Step 6 at the same time as me.
Ooh,
and we both had maybe a year clean.
Oh God.
And it was like, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, right?
No. Because you see all your character defects in her, and she sees them all in you.
It wasn't good.
No.
It was not good. So I don't know how that lined up, where it was like, we're both, we have some, a year or so clean, and we both are on Step 6. And that one was kind of rough, that first go. And I think one of the things that's always kind of funny especially with the first round of Step 6 was how many defects I wrote down, because it's kind of ridiculous.
You probably wrote down like 89.
Yeah,
defects.
You write down this ridiculous list, and I've seen people whip them out in meetings before, and it's like, they almost wrote a book report, and it's just
yeah.
Come
did
on,
you just
man.
Google what a character defect was and write them all down?
Which is that's important, because the second way I worked it was totally different. So, with Step 7, Step 7, the first time, it was just kind of a thing. It wasn't really. It was just going.
What does that mean?
Going through the motions. It wasn't really because I don't buy into the idea that you lose your character defects.
Yes.
So I had to do some changing to the actual wording of the step almost, because I don't believe that they're going to be removed. What I believe is that they can be lessened, but they are part of who we are, and we can't change. We can change how we are. We can change who we are, but we can't remove a part of us. It's going to be a part of us forever. We can choose not to act on it, but it's always going to be there. So, if I were to relapse, I'm not going to forget how to, drink or use drugs. It's going to come back real quick. So if I want to be an asshole, I'm not going to forget how to be an asshole. It'll come back. Yep. So that's kind of the first way I worked the step. The second way is that my sponsor, we didn't go through, through the NA way, right? We did more of an AA style, but the way that we did it is, instead of doing the giant list of character defects, we did the 7 deadly sins.
Ooh, I like that.
I figured you'd like that.
Yeah.
I figured.
That's good.
Yeah. So you analyze each of the 7 deadly sins and then relate them to different aspects of your life in which you can improve upon.
Can we name them right now?
I can never get all of them. Gluttony, sloth, lust,
greed,
vanity,
wrath, and 6 out of 7.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll give us. That's an A minus.
So, I mean, gluttony.
Did we say greed or no?
Yeah, we said greed. Damn it.
So
okay.
So
I'm Googling
like, so part of it is like if you think of gluttony, you don't just think of food, right? You think of anything in excess, and that's kind of going back to the whole concept of filling the void, right? So you can look at acting out and like in the way that you were mentioning shopping earlier, or for myself like with work or mainly with work right now, what am I doing to excess that is as much as it feels good, it's really causing me more damage. So that's the way that I did 6, and actually the way I did 7 was kind of interesting. Is my sponsor asked me to change all of the
envy.
Okay.
Damn it.
Envy.
Nice.
That's a good one.
Nice. So my sponsor, he would always ask us to change steps and traditions and write them in our own words. So the way that, the one I always remember is one of my sponsee brothers. What was tradition 3? We let any motherfucker up in here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tradition 3, we let any motherfucker up in here. That was his tradition 3.
I love it.
So my step 7 is because we're asking God to humbly remove our defects, our shortcomings. My issue is that I don't believe that if there is, some sort of entity, which I do believe there is an entity, I don't believe they have a direct causation with what goes on in our lives. I don't believe
they're not puppet masters.
They don't really care.
Yeah.
They have better things to do. And truthfully, they have much better things to do than pay attention to me. I'm not that important. But essentially, the way I change step 7 is to say that so my step 7, which I'm sure if people get to this part of the podcast, they'll get upset with, is I changed it to we're humble, we're but only humans and we will make mistakes. And that's my step 7. And it's been my step 7 for years.
So it's more like a self-forgiveness sort of thing?
Yeah, it's like I'm going to try my best to be the best version of myself I can be. But, sometimes I'm going to fuck up. And, that's okay. Right. But, again, I'm only human and I will make mistakes. It's really, what can I do after I make that mistake? Am I going to go back into that defect? Or am I going to, improve upon it? And that's my step 7.
Perfect. And
you'll probably go to step 9 and make them in.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Are you going to go back to step 6, or are you going to move forward to 8 and 9?
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
Right.
And no, I like what you.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I like what you said because it always brings up. I think 6 and 7 have the Doctor Strange quote, and it's we never lose our demons. We just learn to live above them.
Yeah. Yeah. They're always part of it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, we would like to thank our guest for joining us tonight.
Yay! Thank you. Hey, can I hear you guys say it one more time so you guys get it correct?
Tyonie?
Yeah!
Yes.
You got it.
Yes! My brain,
I can see, I could see David struggling with that, and he was like, he just really wanted to say Tia Leone.
I did want to say Tia Leone so bad.
Because it was now in your head.
It was. I manifested it, and it couldn't go away. Oh, Tyonie.
Well, thank you so much, you guys, for having me on your show.
Absolutely.
Very cool. I like hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. All right. Here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. All right, everybody, thanks for listening tonight. Thanks, Tyonie, for joining us. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Like, share, subscribe, but most importantly, stay safe, stay clean.